right, so we'd love to get your suggestions for deep dives. And this one came from a lot of you.
Yeah, a lot of interest in this one.
Yeah, a lot of people sent this in, and it's a comparison of three of the biggest names in gold IRAs: Augusta Precious Metals, Goldco, and American Hartford Gold. And I think it's really interesting, right? Because we talk about investing a lot on this show, and gold IRAs are something we've touched on, but we haven't like gone super deep. And
Yeah, never done a full comparison like this.
yeah, so I think it's a great idea to kind of like really unpack this comparison article that was sent in, and it's by Doug Young, right?
That's right.
Called Augusta versus Goldco versus American Hartford Gold Comparisons.
Yeah.
And he really seems to know his stuff when it comes to, all things precious metals and IRAs. So
Yeah, he does.
he really had a very comprehensive comparison.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to do today is really like go past the surface level. Like, what are the key differences between these companies? Because they all offer gold IRAs, right?
Yeah. But what are the kind of like nitty-gritty differences that actually matter to you as an investor?
What are the nuances? What are the things that are going to actually impact your decision?
Right, exactly. Because, it can be overwhelming, right?
Mm.
You go to these websites, you see all the, the shiny gold and the, promises of security, but we got to figure out what's actually real.
What's the substance behind the marketing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's jump right in. The article starts off with a pretty bold statement. It says, Augusta Precious Metals has been ranked as the top overall gold IRA company for the past 3 years by Money Magazine, which is like, wow.
That's a pretty impressive accolade.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Sets a high bar.
It does. So right away, you're like, okay, what are they doing right? What's so special about them?
Right. So that begs the question, what sets them apart?
Yeah. And to answer that, the article goes into these like individual overviews of each company.
Okay.
And with Augusta, what's interesting is they really emphasize education. They actually have these one-on-one webinars with a Harvard-trained expert, which you don't see every day.
That's not your typical customer service rep.
No, it's not. And it makes you think like they're serious about, making sure their customers really get it.
It's not just a transaction. They want you to be informed.
Exactly. Yeah. And they also talk a lot about transparency and customer service, which seems to be backed up by the fact that they have a perfect record with the BBB.
Oh, wow.
And the BCA, 0 complaints.
That's unheard of.
It's pretty amazing, especially in, finance where there's always someone complaining about something.
Right. It speaks volumes about their commitment to customer satisfaction.
Yeah. And then on top of that, they even talk about like a really streamlined account setup process.
Okay. So they're trying to make it easy for you.
Yeah, like hassle-free.
So if you're someone who values simplicity and ease of use, that could be a big plus.
Absolutely. Okay. So that's Augusta. Now let's look at Goldco. They kind of have a different angle.
Okay.
Their big thing is they offer a really wide array of gold and silver IRA options.
Oh, so they're all about choices.
Yeah, like if you have very specific preferences for the types of, coins or bars or whatever you want to hold.
Or if you want to diversify across a broader range of assets.
Exactly. They seem to have you covered. And they also highlight competitive pricing and even have promotions for new investors, which is always nice.
Sure, always enticing.
Yeah. And when it comes to customer service, they also have really good ratings on sites like Trustpilot and TrustLink. And they emphasize this like personalized service, so it seems like they really want to make sure you feel taken care of.
So they're focused on that individual attention and making sure your needs are met.
Exactly. And then the third company is American Hartford Gold. And their big focus seems to be on education, too, but maybe in a slightly different way than Augusta.
Oh, okay. How so?
They provide like a ton of resources. They have market updates. They have all these guides. They do individual consultations.
So it's more of a multifaceted approach to education.
Yeah, like they want to equip you with all the knowledge you need.
Empowered investor.
Exactly. And they also highlight the personalized customer support with dedicated account representatives. So that seems to be a common thread among all three companies.
It does seem like that personal touch is important in this industry.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, right? You're dealing with your retirement savings. You want to know that there's someone there who's got your back.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got a sense of each company's overall vibe now. Let's get into the actual gold IRA services themselves.
Okay.
At the core, all three companies are offering essentially the same thing. They help you diversify your retirement portfolio by adding physical precious metals.
Right. And the idea is that gold and silver can act as a hedge against inflation. Because, historically, they've tended to hold their value pretty well, even when other assets are, tanking.
Right. They can provide a sense of stability during turbulent times.
Exactly. So let's break it down by company. So with Augusta's Gold IRA service, they really doubled down on that simplicity and clarity that we talked about earlier.
Oh,
They have a very clear fee structure. So you know exactly what you're paying for up front, and they assist you with every step of this setup and management process. So it's like, that hassle-free experience.
so they're handling all the details, taking care of the
Yeah,
logistics.
like hand-holding you through the whole thing,
Yeah.
which can be really appealing to people who are like, maybe new to this or just want things to be
See, so
easy.
it takes the stress out of the equation.
Exactly. Now, Goldco, with their Gold IRA, they emphasize the flexibility that they offer. You can choose from all these different types of gold and silver products.
Oh, so they're catering to investors who want more control over their holdings.
Yeah, like maybe you have a preference for, American Eagle coins or Canadian Maple Leafs or, whatever it is.
Or you have a specific strategy in mind.
Yeah, exactly. And they provide guidance on the benefits and risks of each type of metal so you can make an informed decision.
So it's about tailoring the portfolio to your individual needs and preferences.
Precisely. And then with American Hartford Gold, their approach to gold IRAs is all about personalized guidance.
Okay, so they're leveraging their educational resources to help you make the right choices.
Yeah, they want you to understand all the options and feel confident in the decisions you're making.
So they're emphasizing education and personalized support throughout the process.
Exactly. Okay, so we've looked at the overall picture now. Let's talk about the actual process of setting up and managing one of these gold IRAs.
Right.
The article makes it sound like all three companies aim for a smooth and straightforward experience.
Okay, so they're trying to make it as painless as possible.
Yeah, but of course, each company has its own little nuances. So with Augusta, they continue that focus on education even during the setup phase.
So they're not just going to open the account for you, they're going to walk you through it.
Yeah, they want to make sure you understand everything and how it works.
But you're not just signing on the dotted line, you're actually learning something.
Exactly. Goldco, on the other hand, really highlights the personalized guidance and that wide array of options that are available.
So right from the start, you're getting that tailored experience.
Yeah, it's all about figuring out what's the best fit for you and your specific goals.
So they're taking a consultative approach.
Yeah, and then with American Hartford Gold, they really lean into that hands-on support with their dedicated account representatives.
Okay, so you have someone there with you every step of the way.
Yeah, from the initial setup all the way through ongoing management.
So they're providing that ongoing support and guidance.
Exactly. Okay, so now let's get into the juicy stuff. What are real customers saying about these companies?
Right, let's look at the customer feedback.
Yeah, the article has a whole section on this, and for Augusta, it's pretty much all positive.
Unsurprising given their top ranking.
Yeah, people consistently praise their educational approach.
Makes sense?
Yeah, and they say they feel more secure and they trust the company more because they feel like they understand what's going on.
So that education translates to trust and peace of mind.
Absolutely. With Goldco, their customers seem really happy with the personalized service and the expertise of their representatives.
So they feel supported and guided throughout the process.
Yeah, like they have someone they can rely on.
Right, a trusted advisor.
Yeah, and then with American Hartford Gold, they get high marks for their extensive educational resources and the tailored advice that they offer.
So similar to Goldco, they're focused on providing that individual support and expertise.
And it seems like this approach helps them build like strong, lasting relationships with their clients.
People appreciate feeling understood and well taken care of.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so now let's get into some of the more like nitty-gritty comparison points.
Okay, the hard facts.
Yeah, starting with trust signals. What are the indicators that these companies are legit and reliable?
Right, are they trustworthy?
And it's actually pretty reassuring to see that all three companies have an A+ rating with the BBB and a AAA rating with the BCA.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, and they all have 5 out of 5 stars on TrustLink. So that suggests a pretty high level of customer satisfaction across the board.
So they all seem to be reputable companies with happy customers.
Yeah, but then when we look at how long they've each been in business, there are some differences.
Okay.
Goldco is the oldest. They were founded in 2006.
Right.
Augusta came along in 2012.
Okay.
And American Hartford Gold is the youngest. They were founded in 2015.
So there's a range of experience there.
Yeah, and, it's not necessarily like a deal breaker if a company is newer.
Right, but longevity can sometimes indicate stability and a proven track record.
Yeah, and, maybe more established processes and systems and things like that.
Right, they've had more time to work out the kinks.
Exactly. But now this is where it gets really interesting when we look at the minimum investment required for an IRA.
Okay, this is a big one.
Huge Goldco actually has no minimum investment at all.
Wow, so you could literally start with just a few dollars.
Yeah, which is amazing if you're just starting out or, you don't have a lot of money to invest right away.
That makes them very accessible.
Totally.
Yeah.
American Hartford Gold has a minimum of $10,000,
Okay.
and Augusta has the highest minimum at $50,000.
So that's a significant difference.
Huge. I mean, that could be a deal breaker for a lot of people right there, depending on their, financial situation.
It's a major factor to consider.
Absolutely. And now let's talk about complaints.
Okay. Everyone wants to avoid those.
Yeah. So the article actually breaks down the number of complaints that each company has had with the BBB and the BCA.
All right, let's hear it.
And this is where Augusta really shines.
Okay.
They have 0 complaints.
0.
All time.
That's incredible.
Isn't it amazing?
Especially in an industry where it seems like everyone has a complaint about something.
Yeah, it really speaks to their commitment to customer service and, resolving issues before they escalate.
Right. It's about proactive problem solving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in comparison, Goldco has had 48 complaints closed in the last 3 years.
Okay.
And 28 of those were in the last 12 months.
Right.
And American Hartford Gold has had 36 complaints closed in the last 3 years.
Okay.
And 21 of those were in the last 12 months.
So they've both had a fair number of complaints.
Right. Yeah. But it's important to note that they are closing them, so they are addressing those issues.
Right. It's not like they're ignoring them.
But still, Augusta's record is just so impressive.
It's hard to beat 0 complaints.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's talk about fees, because obviously that's a big factor when you're choosing any kind of financial product.
Absolutely. Everyone wants to know what it's going to cost them.
Right. So for the initial setup fees, all 3 companies are pretty similar.
Okay.
Augusta charges a $50 setup fee plus a $30 wire transfer fee.
Right.
Goldco has the same structure, $50 setup fee plus $30 wire transfer fee.
Okay.
And American Hartford Gold charges a flat $50 setup fee. So
the upfront costs are pretty comparable.
yeah, there's not a huge difference there, but when we look at the annual administrative fees, that's where we start to see some variation.
Okay.
Augusta and Goldco both charge $80 per year,
Right.
while American Hartford Gold charges $100 per year.
So a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, and, over time that can add up.
Sure, especially if you're holding your IRA for a long time.
And then for storage fees, all 3 companies have the same structure, $150 per year for segregated storage,
Okay.
and $100 per year for non-segregated storage.
Now, can you explain the difference between those 2 types of storage?
Yeah, so segregated storage means that your specific gold or silver holdings are kept physically separate from other investors' assets.
Okay.
So it's like your own little vault within the vault.
Right. So there's no commingling of assets.
Exactly, and that can give you a higher level of security and peace of mind because you know exactly where your stuff is.
Makes sense.
Non-segregated storage, on the other hand, means that your assets are pooled with those of other investors.
Okay.
So it's like everyone's stuff is kind of mixed together in one big pot.
And that can be more cost effective, but you don't have that same level of individual tracking.
Right, exactly. So it really comes down to your personal preferences and how much you're willing to pay for that extra level of security.
So it's a trade-off between cost and peace of mind.
Yeah, and then the article also mentions withdrawal charges, and it says that Augusta is very transparent about these fees, but for Goldco and American Hartford Gold, you need to really dig into their terms and conditions to find the details.
So Augusta is being upfront about their fees while the other 2 are a bit more opaque.
Yeah, and that's always something we watch out for,
Right.
You don't want any surprises when you're trying to access your money in retirement.
Right. Transparency is key.
Absolutely. Okay, so now let's go back to client education and resources, because we talked about this a little bit earlier, but let's get into some specifics.
Okay.
So with Augusta, their big thing is those one-on-one educational webinars with a Harvard-trained expert, which is just so unique.
It's a pretty high level of expertise.
Yeah, and they also have this retirement calculator, which can be really helpful for, projecting the potential growth of your gold investments.
So they're providing you with the tools and the knowledge to make informed decisions.
Exactly. Now, Goldco doesn't have a Harvard consultant, but they do offer a wider range of resources.
Oh, like what?
They have guides, they have expert consultations, they have real-time price trackers, they have market analysis.
So they're giving you a more comprehensive suite of tools?
Yeah, it's like a one-stop shop for gold IRA information.
So you can stay informed and make educated choices.
And then American Hartford Gold focuses on those personalized consultations with their dedicated account representatives.
Okay, so it's that one-on-one guidance again.
Yeah, and they also provide market updates and other educational content.
So they're keeping you up to date on the market and helping you navigate it.
Exactly. So it seems like all 3 companies are committed to educating their clients, but they just have slightly different approaches.
Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. Now let's talk about customer service and support beyond those dedicated account reps.
Okay.
The article mentions that all three companies offer support lines, and they all prioritize being responsive. But it specifically calls out Augusta for their really quick and efficient responses.
So if you have a question or a problem, you can expect a prompt resolution.
Yeah, which is really important, right, when you're dealing with your retirement savings. You don't want to be waiting around for days or weeks for an answer.
Absolutely, time is money.
Exactly. And then it's also worth noting that Augusta and Goldco and American Hartford Gold, they all offer customer loyalty programs.
Oh, nice. So they reward you for sticking with them.
Yeah, you can get discounts on fees or, free gold or other perks.
So they're incentivizing long-term relationships.
Yeah, for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
now let's talk about guarantees because, peace of mind is really important when you're investing your hard-earned money.
Absolutely. You want to feel secure in your decision.
Exactly. So Augusta offers a 7-day money-back guarantee,
Okay.
and they also have this 100% satisfaction guarantee.
Wow. That's pretty bold.
It is, and it even allows you to switch providers without penalty if you're not completely happy.
So they're really putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, they're that confident in their service.
Yeah.
And the article says that Goldco and American Hartford Gold also offer guarantees, but it doesn't give the specifics. So that's something you'd want to look into.
Right. You always want to read the fine print.
Exactly.
Huh.
Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk about is buyback programs.
Okay. So what happens when you want to cash out?
Yeah, all three companies offer buyback programs so you can sell your gold or silver back to them when you're ready to take distributions in retirement.
Makes sense.
But Augusta actually highlights their highest buyback guarantee.
Oh, so they're guaranteeing you the best price.
Yeah, they say they'll buy back your metals at the highest price available in the market.
That's a pretty good deal.
It is. It gives you a lot of flexibility and security, knowing that you're not going to get ripped off when you're ready to sell.
Right. You're protected from market fluctuations.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
What are the key takeaways here?
Okay. So if we look at everything we've discussed, it seems like Augusta Precious Metals is the clear winner in terms of reputation and customer satisfaction.
Yeah, they have that spotless record with the BBB and the BCA, and their customers just rave about their service.
And their educational resources are top-notch.
Yeah, that Harvard-trained expert is a pretty big selling point.
It is, but they do have that high minimum investment requirement.
Right, $50,000 is a lot of money.
So they're definitely catering to a more affluent clientele.
Yeah, but if you can afford it, they seem like a really solid choice.
Absolutely. Now, Goldco is a good option if you're looking for flexibility and choice.
Yeah, they have that huge selection of gold and silver products.
And no minimum investment.
Right, so you can start small and gradually build up your portfolio.
And they have good customer service, too.
Yeah, their customers seem happy with the personalized attention that they get.
So they're a good all-around choice.
Yeah, and then American Hartford Gold is also a solid contender.
Yeah, they have a strong focus on education and personalized support.
And they have a lower minimum investment than Augusta.
Right. $10,000 is more manageable for many people.
Yeah, so they're kind of like a middle ground between Augusta and Goldco.
Yeah, a good balance of features and affordability.
So ultimately, the best choice for you is going to depend on your individual circumstances.
Right. Your financial goals, your risk tolerance, your investment strategy.
Yeah, and you know how much hand-holding you need.
Exactly. Some people want to be more hands-on, while others prefer a more hands-off approach.
So we always recommend doing your own research.
Yes.
Go to the websites, read customer reviews, maybe even talk to some representatives from each company.
Get a feel for their culture and their approach.
Exactly. And, think about what peace of mind really means to you in this context.
Right. Is it about the lowest fees, the most comprehensive educational resources, the strongest reputation?
Whatever it is for you, let that guide your decision.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, the more you know, the better equipped you'll be to make a smart choice.
Exactly. So happy investing. And we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.